Against? Carried. Councillors, we go back on. Thank you for sharing morning tea and with our staff. It's always good. Page 29, your hard copy councillors. Item GOV 20/19. Can I have a move in a second to deal with this item, please? Move in a second, please. Councillor Mike Petrie, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bronwyn Petrie. I thank you. And welcome, Erica, Manager of Custom Services and Governance and Records. It's a long title. To present this report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to adopt the Tenterfield Shire Council Operational Plan 2019-2020, pending submissions following the public exhibition period from 24. That doesn't exhibition.
You were just about to say execution.
No, it was actually exhibition, Mr Mayor. My apology. From the 24th of April 2019 to the 22nd of May 2019 for inclusion with the current Tenterfield Shire Council Delivery Program 2017-2021. I'll just remind councillors that the draft operational plan details the actions and programs to be undertaken to support the delivery program and the community strategic plan that are currently in place. In the report, I've also highlighted that as Council's May meeting falls on the 22nd of May 2019, which is also the last day of the public exhibition period, Council will have a requirement to hold an extraordinary meeting following the closure of the submission period, so that there is a period of time allowed for the submissions to be built in with the report following consultation with councillors, and the recommendation tentative date has been proposed for the following week, the 29th of May, but again that can be decided by councillors and confirmed by councillors, so it has not been made part of the resolution for this report. That does give you an amount of flexibility. It certainly also allows for councillors to consider any possible submissions that come in prior to that period of time at the councillor workshop in May, and it also allows for councillors' submissions to be discussed and debated at the councillor workshop in May, which is prior to the 22nd May closure of the exhibition period.
Questions to Erica, councillors, to deal with the report? Councillor McNish, yes, and I'll go to you, Councillor Bronwyn Petrie. Yep.
If we were to make a submission or talk about fees and charges, we wait until the meeting. Is that
no, so you can actually provide those comments and commence the discussion prior to that. So basically from the point forward of this report being adopted, the plan goes on public exhibition. So then any comments, any submissions, any suggestions, basically from this afternoon.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Erica. Councillor Bronwyn, you've indicated.
Yep, thank you, Mr Mayor. On page 56 at the back of the report, under general waste, just a query regarding some of the, one of the fees there. I have discussed it with Paul and Kylie, and we'll look at it again. They'll look at it again with their waste people.
Councillor, I apologise. Which page, please?
Page 56, nearly at the back.
Yep, gotcha.
Well, it's just that the 80 litre, less than 80 litre bins 320, the 80 to 120 is 510, but then the 120 to 240 jumps right up to 1660, and then the 250 is 17. I would have thought that the third one would have been more around like a 12 of that.
Yep.
Otherwise, you might as well just keep using a 240 for the sake of 40 cents. But anyway, they're going to discuss that with the waste staff. And I was just wondering also, what happened with our letter that went up to the Mount Lindesay residents that we
to do with the in-out, opt-in or opt-out?
Have we got a response from that as yet?
Did you? No.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, I have to take that on notice. I know that all the letters were sent out because I signed something, but I haven't seen précis of the replies.
So through you, Mr Mayor, certainly through records, we have not seen any responses come in to any of that sort of correspondence, but as the Chief Executive has noted, that can be taken on notice if
But
possible.
if I can ask you, the letters went out.
So we'll have to take that on notice because it is actually generated through the Chief Operating Officer's area.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and would defer to his acting officer.
Okay. Yep.
It's just that we need those responses
Yeah.
to make our
Yeah, no,
decision.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. That's what it was
So,
all about.
The other thing, one of our ratepayers did request that, is there any way if this goes online that it can be a searchable document, or is it not able to be?
The fees and charges, when we put it together for exhibition, is, yeah, as I said, it goes in a PDF. The fees and charges themselves are a searchable document, so through the internet, you can type in there, a waste or whatever, and all of the fees with waste will actually be generated. In terms of the searchable document, it's divided into several pieces, I guess, to try and make it easier to read, like with the services, what were they looking to be able to search? So we can certainly hit the links, so link the index to the page numbers if that assists.
Yep.
That's
Are you referring to the correspondence with, yep, right, okay. Yep,
Yeah.
I read them.
Yeah, but I thought it was a
Yeah.
good idea for anyone going and looking, if you can,
Yep.
you know what it's like when you've got so many
Yep.
documents, if there's a way that they can, you can search a specific area of interest quickly.
Yep.
So with the index, what we can actually do is embed within the index a hyperlink that will take you. So if you click on the sale yards to each of the services, it will take you directly to the page where the heading is. Yep, we can do
Any
that.
other questions to Erica or Kylie to deal with the report, councillors? Councillor McNish again, yes?
Just a quick one, Mr. Mayor. I noticed this with waste.
Microphone, councillor, please.
Oh, sorry.
You're right.
The percentage rise in the last 12 months is very, very high, especially when you consider that the CPI is about 2.1% or something. I know there's a big hole in the waste budget, but some of these increases seem very, very excessive to me. And the thing that worries me is that this will only encourage illegal dumping. If we make it so dear that people can't afford it, it'll end up in the stock routes and beside the road and things like that.
Did you want to comment? Yep. I'll go to the CE for some comment, councillor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, you may recall a few months ago, the Chief Operating Officer did a high-level report on the 10-year financial plan, specifically on waste management, which showed a slight rise in the first couple of years, then a huge deficit in the middle years, and they're taking to year 10 to get back to net again. That was based on the increases. So if council doesn't increase charges, and the waste fund is a charge, the water fund is a charge, and the sewer fund is a charge, that's council's decision, but that will just mean that the other things funded out of the general fund, such as timber bridges, will be lessened.
Thank you. Mr. CE. Councillor Mike Petrie, before I come back to you, Councillor Bronwyn.
I don't know whether it's the right time to bring this up here, but on page 50,
Yep.
the total sale yards thing, there's $1.269 million there.
Councillor, just quick, what page? I'm sorry.
50?
Page 50.
Of the fees and charges.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that 1.269 million, is that been spent or has it got to be spent? They haven't done the ramps and that yet, have they? No, they put some, replaced the timber rails with metal, and that's probably the $28,000, but $1.241 million, like,
Kylie.
That is the truck wash expenditure, which includes the loading ramps within that. So council currently has an allocation for the truck wash, as well as some forecast income that same truck wash. So that's what that is, as I said. And so the operational plan itself is looking at our business as usual model. So we haven't made any changes to that, which is to put in that truck wash. So most of it's capital.
And council, to be supportive of our senior staff member with that, and totally it's appropriate that you asked the question, to do with the workshop, which I thought was fantastic the other week, to do with that, and we did decide to leave that there, and we make the decision while this is on, as we deal with this, and obviously we've got a confidential report today to deal with, and there'll be much more discussion coming out of that, so. No, that's exactly what it is.
It is to be expended in the coming financial year. So that's when it's actually programmed. So that heading 1920 is that it's forecast to be spent from 1 July. Yep.
I've got another question too.
Of course you can, councillor.
On page 44, these annual availability charge for residential for sewerage. I notice here it's gone up $106, gone up 10.27%. It's not a maintenance thing, it's just a revenue thing, isn't it? Like why should it keep going up? I remember I got charged for it was $924. Now it's up $1,138. Like no way in the world I can hook onto sewerage.
No, he said page 44.
It just runs past. Like
Oh, okay.
it's just a bloody, it's just a revenue, I reckon.
That one.
I don't know why, the revenue, why it's got to keep going up each year.
Yep. The CE's got some comment to that. Councillor Mike Petrie, yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's the same answer for waste fund as it is for water and sewer. Basically, in times past, council hasn't charged enough for the 3 charges that it should have to break even. That was partly due because prior to 2009, councils weren't forced to do long-term asset management forecasting and condition assessments, and team financial plans weren't linked to asset management. When the integrated planning and reporting framework came in 2009, basically it said councils had to become sustainable and their 10-year financial plan had to actually match their income. A lot of councils, and this is one of them, as a matter of fact, I don't know any that haven't, weren't putting enough money aside to renew their assets. And perhaps Mr. Della could speak about this from his experience in other areas as well, but I suspect it's not only a problem in New South Wales. The water fund, the sewer fund and the waste fund have been subsidised when depreciation is taken into consideration from the general fund forever. It's up to council whether they want to continue doing that. The main point of contention being that it's not purely within the imprimatur of the Act, and secondly, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, because we've just received a report today saying there's another 18 timber bridges on top of the 16 we've already got to rebuild. So we've got over 30 new bridges to build in a short period of time. There's going to become we're going to get to a point where the state government stops bailing us out with those. We've been very lucky, I suspect mainly because of the state government election. It was a perfect storm for us to receive $23.5 million in 5 months, which is about 86% increase in capital, which is I've never seen in local government before, and people I've spoken to wonder what we're doing up here. But eventually that capital income source is going to dry up, and eventually failing to be able to fix those bridges up, we're going to have to put load limits on the other bridges, admittedly, not for the next 2 years. And we're going to be in the same situation as we were in October, November last year, except we might not be facing a perfect storm where the state government puts their hand in their pocket for $10.2 million for bridges in 1 month. It's really difficult because people see inequities, meaning people in town are paying for charges and people outside of town aren't. But the people outside of town aren't getting the benefit of those charges either, because they're paying for their own OSM systems, which is their on-site sewer management systems. They're paying for their own water tanks, and they're largely driving on unsealed roads as well. So it's a really difficult cake to cut. But at the end of the day, local government is our general rates income is capped, and I think it's 2.7% this year. Our charges aren't capped, but they're supposed to be sustainable as per the Integrated Planning and Reporting Framework. And I'm no expert on it, but Mr. Della is, and Paul and the Chief Operating Officer, myself, and Chief Corporate Officer, and our statutory management accountant, Igor, has been working on this for the last few months. And the bottom line is there's no nice way to say that we're not charging enough for our water, sewer and waste. But we aren't. Unless, of course, we don't mind it being continued to be subsidised by the general fund.
And that's been well explained to this council over a long period now, councillor.
Yeah, but the sewerage availability,
Yep.
like there's no way impossible, like I'll be ever able to hook up to it. And I got to pay for it. And I don't know why I got to pay for the bridges. Like next thing they'll be charging me every time a council truck drives past the house. You know, you just get all these charges, more charges. Like that's going up 10.27%. You know, it's a lot of money. And you get it every year. You're paying about $5,000 in rates. Like I nearly built a bridge myself. I think that one's adjusting myself.
Well, councillor, that while it's on review, you're quite entitled to put a submission in there. Am I correct in saying that, Colin?
Yeah, most
I'll come
definitely.
to
We
you.
can certainly review that. I mean, the challenge is too that our costs go up as well exponentially. So as these things lift, and that's what we've tried to provide council with, is a budget outcome that they're happy with, and all of these actually contribute to that particular outcome. So as we change a fee or a charge, something else will change within that. So just changing the fee and charge here means that you'll have less income in your sewer business, which means then you've got to have a look at your expenditure to make sure that you balance the book. So what don't you want to keep if you're going to actually lower the fee? So we've got to try and make that actually match the income and the expenditure, just like we do with our budgets.
Well, that wouldn't mind paying it if you're getting something for it or doing something. It's just the revenue.
But council, correct me if I'm wrong, councillor, in your area, that council have laid the sewage there so you can get access to that. That's why you charged it. Up Cowper Street. Get correct, yeah.
You can't get at it. There's a big mountain between it, a big hill in it.
Councillor Bronwyn Petrie.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I was just wondering if the CE could explain the percentage of subsidisation. I think is it 3-1 or something at the moment with the sewage and water. But the other thing is, I agree with Councillor Michael Petrie with the sewer connection availability. It would be like I see the sewer connection fee is 1,150,
Yep.
proposed.
Yep.
But the availability charge, just because someone has put a sewer out, has had a development further away, and therefore they've got the line put there to their place. Every other person, meantime, suddenly has to pay an annual charge because a line runs past. There's no service provided to them. Therefore, what is the expenditure that these people have to contribute to? I'd be happy if the sewer connection fee was higher, rather than, it'd be like, in other words, having a property with a power line going past.
Yep.
And if you don't have power put into your property, but you're paying
Yep.
an availability charge simply because of a blessed
Yep.
power line going past you.
Yep.
I think I have to agree, it is, I mean, I'd like to have explained to me, where is the expenditure the council requires each other landowner to pay for, simply because someone further out has required to have a sewer connection put in. And if so, I mean, why is the annual charge higher than the actual connection fee? I mean, I've always had a bit of a problem with that. And in this specific case, physically, you can't actually connect it into that block of land. So I think that is something that needs re-looking at, or better explaining why you're paying for availability charge, and I'll put it back to compare it to a power line. If you're not connected to the power line, why on earth are you paying for the power line to be there in the first
Sure,
place?
you'll get a response, but, just a comment and blow me down if I'm wrong, and I'm not defending this council. Kylie, would it be correct in saying it's fairly standard practice that a council goes down this line with their charges as far as availability? I'm not defending council.
So the availability charge is actually a charge that council's able to levy under the Act. So that's quite a legitimate charge
Yep.
for that, and something that every council does is issue a charge whether you have access, or if you're within the vicinity of those particular services that are being provided by council, and that's designed to spread the load across people who could tap into it and choose to have a vacant block, etc., and somebody else wants that particular service. The revenue mix itself, as we talked about, council can certainly look at that and review that if they wish to alter the charging regime, but remembering the fact that our income's got to match our expenditure. So if we have to put the pipe in, even if somebody's not paying rates next to that or adjacent to that pipe, the same as a road for a higher level of availability charge, council still has to maintain that. So every time we add on to the infrastructure, we're actually adding on that expenditure. So if we approve some of your planning discussions and conversations about not having large amounts of rural residential, because that actually increases the amount of infrastructure, not disproportionately to the number of people you've got available in those areas to pay as well. Does that?
Just have a suck and see on that for a minute. If you're going to come back, I'll go to Councillor Rogan. I'll come back to Councillor Roman. Councillor Rogan.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor, for Terry, or maybe Kylie, I'm not sure. But, Erica, it's the public consultation period of 28 days or whatever it is. Given that, there might be quite a few people in a similar boat to Councillor Petrie, and there might be a few submissions, can you run us through the process of how council takes into account those public submissions? Is there some sort of matrix drawn up, and when it gets to a certain percentage for a certain complaint, it's acted on, or it's revisited somehow, or how does it work? Thank you.
Microphone. There you going.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Councillor, when the submissions come in, so we actually register them in through the record system as they arrive, and they are entered into a matrix table. So, and you may recall that last year we did a presentation of those submissions, and they were provided to the workshop at the time for councillors to consider the submissions that have been arrived at that point in time. And basically you then get to consider, discuss and make decisions on whether or not the submissions stand, and that council would like to amend something within the plan, or councillors may decide not to. So that's your decision. So that's the basic process of it. So effectively it is council who makes that decision whether or not a submission is a valid submission, and basically is part of the edit. And then you guide us.
So it does come back to council, thank you.
Councillor Very.
With the sewage availability charge, actually I thought we discussed that under the previous council, and if it wasn't physically available, they weren't charged. As in, I don't know in Mike's case whether he's physically able to hook up to the sewage line or not, I don't know, but
I'll just make it clear that we're referring to a councillor, and that's fine, but we need to be very, very careful about just singling, cherry picking someone out. So we'll use Councillor Petrie in fairness,
Yep.
in all safety as an example. Okay?
yeah, as an
But
example.
there's obviously more people than Councillor Petrie
Yeah.
involved with this.
But, so if they're not physically available to be connected because of whatever reason, be it a hill or rocks or something,
Yeah.
I thought we scrapped that charge.
I did.
Oh, I know we did under one person because they applied for it, didn't they? I can't quite remember the case. It was a fair while ago, 6 years ago.
All right.
I'm getting old to remember anything like that now.
Yeah,
Just to the best of my knowledge, I'm not sure that the Act provides for that. What it does provide is a distance from the service itself for which you can charge. So that's the primary function used in terms of that flat map function, that if you are within, I forget the number of metres at this point in time, but it's within a certain distance from where the service is provided, that the charging layer is applied.
just to make, while we're having this discussion, councillors, be fully aware to do with the report for Eric and Kylie, that what we're dealing with here, and we as councillors are quite entitled to make a submission, correct me if I'm wrong, in this period, if we wish to have a change to do with the topic we're talking about, or whatever's in this document. That's what it's all about. And last couple of weeks we had, I thought was outstanding, and the CEO said it was the best one he's ever had, with the 2-day workshop we had to do with our budget, fees and charges, everything. And we thrashed just about everything we could out, and some stuff they're still not finalised, but it's all good. But it was the healthiest thing that we could ever done. So don't forget that this is your opportunity. Councillor Rogan, you raised a really good question about the process we need to go through. So we're all clear. But if you're ever in doubt, please contact the staff and they'll all guide you through it. It's not a big task. In fairness, Councillor, I'll go back to Councillor Bronwyn. You had indicated before, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Rogan. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And yes, it was an excellent workshop. I thought it was very, very helpful for everyone.
Yep.
Back to the availability charge.
Yep.
Are you charged that if you have the sewer connected as well, or only if you've got vacant land with?
That's a good question.
You charge for your sewer in your rates, aren't you?
So my understanding is that it's only if the service is available and you don't have that charge currently. Paul has just given me, which is great, because I've obviously had a bit of a blonde moment. In the revenue policy itself, we actually talk about the sections of the Act and the meterage. So I said I couldn't think of what it was. So it is not connected to the council sewer main, but any other part of the property is no more than 75 metres from the council sewer main. So this is actually contained within your operational plan. So in terms of how those charging structures are actually developed and how we apply the Act to come up with those particular fees and charges. I'm sorry, I don't have a page number on the bottom of that one.
Joel, just hop in there to make it, we're all clear and on the same page. Kylie's raised a very good point. It's in the Act. We don't make this up. Correct?
That's correct.
That's right. Just,
So
I couldn't answer that, Michael, but it's in the Act.
So my point is
Yep.
that availability charge is the exact same price as someone who is connected, non-residential, with a 20 millimetre water connection will be paying the exact same price. So someone who's actually using the sewer is paying the same price as someone who isn't, but could potentially at some stage in the future use it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I mean, there's a word that would actually be very apt for this particular section that I will not use in public. But I just really don't think that's very fair. And it comes back to my point of a power line that you could or could not choose to connect to. And if I wish to have a power line brought out to my property, I have to pay to have it taken there. So that would mean that anyone in future with a potential development going near them should scream to hell and high water against and object to it, because they will potentially be facing ongoing availability charges for something that they may never, ever use. So anyway, I do think on that basis that that person's not having the use or any costs incurred to council for that particular service are paying the same price or potentially paying the same price as people who actually are connected. I think we should be charging fee for service, but not fee for potential service.
CE's got some comment before I go to Kylie. Councillor Bronwyn?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, council can't build 80% of a sewer line. So if there's 100 people in a street and 2 out of every 10 of them doesn't want it, it's going to cost the council the same amount of money to build. It's going to cost them the same amount of money to build the line, regardless of how much income there is. So the reason the Act is written in such a way is because in the event land gets sold and council, say for example, council put the sewer line 70% up the road in an area that's inside the town, and they'd the very first person on the beginning of the line says, no, I'm not going to pay for it. The cost is then amortised over the next 6 people, and house number 2 says, I'm not paying for it either. I've got an on-site sewage management system, and before you know it, the cost, which is the same, is amortised over a smaller number of people. I stuck a thing up on my wall about a month ago that government is the fiction in which everybody else attempts to get someone else to pay for their standard of living. And that was written 183 years ago, and it's true today, because if, for example, in the power industry, someone in the middle of a power line says, no, I'm not going to pay an access charge for that, that cost is still amortised over the length of the power line. And should that property then be sold in 12 months' time, the person in the middle says, well, I wish they'd have put the power line through because I want power. So the Act is written in such a way, it's not for the good of an individual per se and their opinion. It's written in a way, it's for good of the community in globo, not necessarily Mr. and Mrs. Jones or Mrs. McGillicuddy or so on and so forth. And it's written in a way that protects the whole community en masse, not individuals. Now, in cases such as Councillor Petrie's, where under the Act, a part of his land, which is able to be connected to the sewers within 75 metres of the sewer line, that's written in the way that Councillor Petrie might not have subdivided and sold it off, but if, for example, you sold your block tomorrow, and somebody came along and said, well, it's inside the town limit, I want sewer, but there's no sewer line, the rest of the ratepayers then pick up the tab for extending the sewer line to that block which they're legally entitled to. So by people paying a sewer access charge, they ensure the integrity of the whole network, not just the network that's at that block. And it's the same with the water mains, and it's the same with waste, and it's the same with the telecommunications, and it's the same with electricity distribution.
Yep.
And it's not written for an individual.
Yep. I'll come to you, Councillor, but did you want to add to that, Cole?
No, I think the CEO explained that very well. Bearing in mind, you will have people at the back of Burke that will be paying, or some, 100, 200 kilometres away from the nearest tip, paying a waste availability charge for their contribution to manage the tip. So it's not actually designed to be a service. And what we're talking about before is I guess that balance between how much we generate from the connection charge versus how much we generate from an availability charge. And I think Terry sort of articulated that very well.
Yep. Just if we can move ahead, I'm going to Councillor Peters, and you've got a question or comment, Councillor. Councillor, we need to keep moving on with this. I'll repeat myself, to do with the submission period. If you feel that this charge is too high or whatever, by all means, put something in.
Sorry, Mr. Smith, I can see annual charges non-residential, but where are the annual charges residential?
On this same page?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll come back to Councillor
Yeah.
Peters.
Just for observation.
Yep.
I did a subdivision at home, divided block off.
Yep.
Power line was there.
Yep.
And they said to me, you've got to put a power line into the block you've subdivided off. I said, well, I'm not going to sell that block. I don't need the power line. They said, well, okay, you've got to get a letter from council to say that they don't require you to put a power line into that block you've subdivided off.
Right.
Which I did.
Right.
So
Done.
right away.
Right. I'll go back to Councillor Bronwyn and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I just couldn't find the annual charges for residential. It's there for non-residential, so I might have domestic blindness. But my concern is that it's the amount. Like, I know that actually having a sewage connection in close proximity may increase the value of your land.
Yep.
That's a given, as per what Terry said.
Yep.
But is it fair and equitable to be paying the same price as a non-residential connection where they are using it? I mean, to me, it just seems out of kilter, just because there's a potential that in future it might
Yep.
Be available. So I think that's something we should look at, but I'm just interested that I can't find any annual charge for residential.
Is this, councillor, so we're on the sewer
I'm
network?
on, yeah, on sewer net, page 44.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, is there an actual annual charge for residential?
$1,138.
Where is it though? Which page?
Availability charge residential. Annual availability.
Which page?
44.
Annual availability?
No, I'm not after the availability charge. So is that if you've actually got it connected at your house? Okay, so that covers all of it. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that,
Is if it's not connected to council sewer, but any part of the property is no more than 75 metres.
Yeah.
From council sewage main. So
Yeah.
if it was a new main out.
so the people who are connected are paying exactly the same price as the people who aren't connected but can potentially, and that's what I think we need to look at. So-
Thank you.
Okay. Righto, councillors. Good discussion. The report's there to the officer's recommendation. Councillors, all in favour of the officer's recommendation? Against? Carried. Thank you, Erica. Page 32 in your hard copy, councillors, is item GOV, excuse me, 21/19, Finance and Accounts for March 2019. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this report, please? Councillor Verry, I thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Murray, and I thank you. And I introduce and welcome Mr. Paul Della, our Manager of Finance and Technology. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Waiting in the wings as always.
Through you, Mr Mayor. This report, as usual, highlights the financial position of council as at the 31st of March. It shows that we had $4,943,894.41 in our general account and $313,266.50 in the trust account. It also provides a summary of council's investments, and they can be seen there. They total $12,328,260.39, and they're in compliance with council's investment policy. You'll also note that there was one concealed water leakage concession approved for March, the total $4,737.97. Thank you.
Questions to Paul to do with the report? No questions, councillors? The report's there. All happy to receive a note? In favour? Against? Carried. Councillors, page 35 in your hard copy. GOV 22/19 Capital Expenditure Report as at the 31st of March 2019. Moving a seconder here, please. Councillor Roman Petrie, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bob Rogan, and I thank you. Once again, I'll hand over to our Manager of Finance and Technology, Mr. Paul Della.
Thanks, and through you again, Mr Mayor. This report once again highlights the capital expenditure to the period ended 31st of March 2019, and the attachment shows all the year-to-date expenditure against budget. Happy to take any questions.
Questions to Paul to do with the report, councillors? No questions? The report's there to receive and note. All in favour? Against? Carried. Page 37, councillors. Thank you, Paul. In your hard copy, it's item RC 6/19, reports of committees, delegates, New England Joint Organisation, reports from our latest JO meeting. I'm the author, so I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mike Petrie, thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Bronwyn?
Just regarding the other business, obviously we've done the mayoral minute as suggested by Local Government New South Wales.
Yeah.
Then Moree Plains and Armidale suggested the cost shifting question go to National Assembly, Local Government New South Wales Mayor's meetings. Has that joint submission been prepared, or was that agreed to?
I would think that it would have been, councillor, but I'm happy to take that up with them
Yep. And
because we've got a meetings on Friday this week and Monday next week to appoint a CE, so I'll take it up with Mick.
And the other one was up in the management of Crown Lands. Just wondering what's sort of happening with that one, because I see we've got a representative on that working party. Could just a bit more information about the standardised plan of management that's proposed.
So comment, councillor?
Through Mr Mayor, the generosity of the government was absolutely outstanding. With over 700 pieces of Crown land that this council's got, we were given $30,000 to do a plan of management for all 736 of them. So obviously, without having divine intervention and turning loaves and fishes into our council was no different to the other councils who I think the maximum amount was only 50 something thousand. So what we spoke about at the last GMAC meeting, and it's gone to the New England JO, was for the ones that are fairly standardised, that we join forces and try and spread the income as best as we can to come up with generic plans of management. Some of them are actually not as complicated as others. For example, lands on the coast with caravan parks on them are extremely complex, and other lands that may not have it, that may have been put aside, 150 years ago for things that didn't develop or developed and then were taken down, such as some of our small localities which are only have one or two houses left in them. Some of them are quite simple, but $30,000, it seems stupid that 7 councils spend $30,000 each,
Sure.
where we can join forces and come up with as many generic plans as we can to cover as many areas as possible. I still think we're going to be well short because there's quite a few that are generic that are going to require individual plans of management. And unless our chief corporate officer's got anything more to add, that's my recollection of it.
Only very briefly, I've spoken to the property team. We will be having a review of that at next week after next workshop. So you can actually have a little bit more of an in-depth look at the properties that are proposed under the new legislation, as well as some of the existing issues around Crown land.
Councillor Very.
Just a question on this one. Is it costing just to give Crown lands to councils, or is it just a general state government stuffer?
Mr. CE.
Through Mr. Mayor, the local government New South Wales fought vehemently against this for a long period of time and lost.
Any other questions to myself or the CE to deal with this report from our JA meeting? No? Reports there, councillors. All happy to receive the report? Favour? Against? Carried. Page 42, councillors, it's item RC7/19. It's the report from the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held Wednesday, the 6th of March. Can I have a move and a second to deal with this report, please? Councillor Forbes, thank you. Seconder. Councillor Rogan, thank you. Questions, councillors? Yeah, of course. Councillor Bromwich.
Just regarding, the report's all about reports were received and noted and accepted, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
we kind of don't know what's in any of those reports.
Right.
So, for instance, is there anything that we as council should know about regarding either the audit or the fraud, misconduct and compliance breaches? Were there any breaches between October and March? Because we wouldn't know because it doesn't say.
Yep.
Or any of the action plans. Is there anything
Yep.
contained within those reports that we should
Cole, did
know
you
about?
want to respond?
So the usual protocol is that the reports are prepared for the committee, and then via those resolutions are reported to council, and the actions recommended by the committee are reported to council at that particular time. So that's in terms of the Audit and Risk Committee. So their responsibility is to actually highlight to council any of those risks that they believe to be there through the members. And obviously you've got 2 members of council who also sit on that particular committee. Having said that, if the minutes do provide any councillor or councillor group with a request for more information, then we can certainly take that on board. But so as a generalisation, we don't usually circulate the agenda and the attachments, therefore the Audit and Risk Committee to review, because obviously they get a lot more information than what we would wish to be making public.
Thank you, Cole. Any more questions, councillors, to deal with the Audit Risk Committee? Reports there, councillors, all happy to receive and note? Thank you. Councillors, we'll move on to page 9 in your hard copy. It's report RC 8/19 from the Parks and Gardens Open Space Advisory Committee held Thursday, 21st of March. Councillor Murray, being the chairperson of that, you happy to move in that way? Seconder, please. Councillor Verry, thank you. Any questions, councillors, to either staff or Councillor Murray as chair? Councillor Verry?
This one, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just got to clean up my bloody act here.
You're right. Get your act sorted out.
Yeah.
You on top of it?
Okay, now with the trees, are we going to name all the trees in the town or are we going to just name the introduced trees? That's the first question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I can't answer you at this point in time because that's still being debated, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Can I just, it's not just referring to Millbrook Park.
Right, all right.
Information booklet on
Yeah.
trees in the Tenterfield area, no, it's not. Because there has been information, Councillor Murray, correct me if I'm wrong, provided for Millbrook Park, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I hopped in there.
That's all right.
Councillor?
It answered the question.
Yep.
And number 5 there, investigation war helmet. I thought that one should have come back to the art committee as we had a fair bit to do with that one initially.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, because then it went from there, it went to the Anzac.
It did originally, sort of, it bandied around there for a while too, quite quietly. Not much success either, councillor, sadly.
And the cost of that.
Yes. Yep.
We could not get a apply for it.
So councillor, what's this, sorry to hop in, councillor Verry, on your space. Councillor Murray, with the investigation, so that's telling me is a grant has been applied for $4,000. Okay. So is that to build the thing, to look at building it? Doesn't sound like a lot of money
No,
when we're talking 30 odd grand. Yeah. Still to look at putting it incorporating the fountain? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, with the general business, in number 1 there, toilet colours. If everyone can take a colour samples to progress associations, I thought it would have been better going to the arts committee, that one. Number 5, discussion in relation to conditions, maintenance, possibly removing existing sculptures. I thought that one should come to the art committee as well.
Well,
Yep.
as the chair, I can say to you, I'm happy to pass that on. More than happy.
Yep. And that's how it should work too, councillor. Yep.
Basically, because if you get number 1 to go to the villages with the toilet colours, I think you'll come back with standard government colours, which will be cream and green or even brown or something like that. Where if you can't go to the art committee, it might come back looking like something good.
Okay, so you want 5? Number 5 and number 1 with the toilet.
Number 5 with the park sculptures, and in number 1, the toilet colours.
Councillor Murray, you've been the chair, and I apologise I couldn't get to this. What are you looking at number 5 with the park sculptures, with possible removal of existing sculptures?
I cannot really tell you what that's all about, quite frankly.
Okay. Anyway, it's fine.
Say that removal of existing sculptures just around 10 parks. I thought we went to a lot of trouble to get that. Not sure.
So I know. I read it and the alarm bells were ringing. I'm thinking, oh, did you? Yeah. Just,
I think we were sidetracked at that point in time.
it's all right. What I'll do, I'll just bring us back to order a bit. I'll go with Kylie for a reply, then I'll go to you, Councillor Reagan.
My understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected, is that we're actually looking at the public art policy that council has and the removal of items within those precincts that are in need of a high level of repair. So we actually have a policy there, and there was one particular item that was found to be in disrepair, and we'd actually received some complaints and questions about the removal of that item as it was literally disintegrating in situ, and some of the risks obviously and what that looked like down within the parkland. So whilst I apologise, I can't shed light, not being at that particular meeting, to the broader context, but I know there has been conversation since then about the public art policy on that.
Thank you. Councillor Reagan.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think Kylie's sort of answered my question. I was on about number 5 as well with the park sculptures, and possible removal, there was items that have deteriorated and need repair, and one of those, I'm probably responsible for one of the complaints Kylie's talking about.
okay.
So she's answered that question, and I'm happy with that.
Okay, councillor.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Bronwyn, yes?
Mr Mayor, I thought we decided that if there was anything with a crossover, that it would go to both, or in fact, 3 committees, if we looked at heritage, art and parks for some items. And I thought that's what we resolved last year. So I don't know about just handing stuff just to arts and culture. I think it should still, if it's in a park, still come back with, or have a joint discussion between parks and open space. If there's something specific, they could even have, as we suggested at the time, having a meeting on the same day, separate meetings, but then maybe get together for those specific items.
That's right.
So I think that was agreeable to everyone at the time. The Platypus Trail, I was concerned about actually. I'm happy to have at number 6, have it advertised that our creek is so, believe it or not, healthy that we actually do have platypus living in there, but whether you actually specifically located where every little nest is, because then you might put them in danger. But it's good for people to wander along and keep an eye out for platypus.
Yep.
But whether you actually say this is where they specifically live, you could have some unintended consequences. Just a bit confused with that number 1, the information booklet on trees. So what is the booklet? I mean, sorry, I know you said it's.
I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, councillor, has been, I'm going back a while, but there has been or did exist or does exist, a booklet on Millbrook Park identifying all the trees in Millbrook Park. Correct me if I'm wrong, yeah?
Is that,
And the design of it too, because when you look
but
from
is
above,
that-
it's the
is that
Southern
this-
Cross.
Is that this?
Did you know that?
Is that this booklet though? I thought, because I understood we were looking at, because of all the queries and in previous Parks and Gardens reports, that all of our parks and our street plantings, because people say, oh, what are those trees? What are these?
Yeah.
We were marked to tell us we were going to get a listing of, say, in Rouse Street here, this is the Manchurian pears and this is something else and blah, blah, and at Jubilee Park and at Millbrook, etc. We would actually have a thing saying, in this park, this is what your trees are. I thought that was the plan, not just Millbrook.
No. Well, I was just using that. No, but when you read the councillor's information booklet on trees in the Tenterfield area, I take that as the whole area. But I was just making it clear. Yep, I was just making it clear that there is one that exists for Millbrook Park. Yeah, as we stand. Yes. But councillor, yeah, no, that's, and when you read on, that's exactly what it says. To be placed on the council website in hard copies, go to Vic Centre, front counter of the council.
But that's not the whole council.
Well, I take that it is.
in their public space.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it says that hard copy, what the information booklet would look like. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
By all
No, so
means.
that is, there's a few things that are actually interlinked, I guess, with that. And so one is at the first step is trying to balance, I guess, at this point in time, the need for information for people coming to town, which is why Millbrook Park has been chosen as the first one. And then obviously our other parks will have their plantings identified. Remembering, of course, that we're going down the path of developing a tree management plan for the entire Tenterfield Township area. So that will actually identify, again, those different trees that are in different road verges out the front of houses, etc., and how we're going to manage those in a more holistic fashion. So even things on Brookston Way, etc. As part of that too, and the promotion is looking at making that engaging. So when the app, the council app that's been in the works for some time, I'm hoping will be launched in the next sort of 5 to 6 weeks, as soon as we get some links back so that we can connect to Apple and Android devices. And we'll actually publish that as a web version as well. So you'll be able to go onto the app and identify and stand there with the tree without having to actually take a paper copy as well.
Councillor Very?
I'm a bit worried about this, Kylie, because Tenterfield Shire has got more trees or species of plants than the entire North American continent. So we could end up with quite a big book.
That is very true. We're talking about street trees, not all plantings. The other thing is we do have a historic GIS location of many of our street trees. So we already actually have an existing map that identifies a lot of those trees of significance. So we're not looking to identify every plant species that's in an area, more so those structural trees that people can see.
Okay.
Can I comment?
Yes,
a little bit?
councillor.
In the Parks and Gardens Committee, Robert Burden is locals.
Right.
Committee. But we're reaching out to places like Drake.
Yeah, your villages. Yep,
the villages.
Yep.
We'd like more representation.
Yep, yep.
I think we got it now in last year. Before.
Yes.
We get a lot of response.
Yep.
Because at the moment it's very lopsided. Not we discussed it.
Too town-centric, councillor. Yeah. But anyway, keep trying, because I know with the committees and with Heritage and that, we've asked for representation from outlying areas, and without sending a bus out to pick them up, it's of the interest that they do come, and maybe that park, as our Heritage group has done, and do some hit the road and do some travelling around, which has been a great success, councillor Bromwich, hasn't it, with the Heritage, and maybe that's a suggestion for the Parks and Gardens to attend a village area and create a bit of interest there and see what they've got to offer. Especially with the cherry picking Liston, with the wonderful job they've done in the last couple of years. It's outstanding. But the community, they were the driver there, and that's pretty easy for council to hop on board. But anyway, it's only a suggestion. Okay, councillor reports there, all happy to receive a note. Favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, councillor Murray. Councillors, at the end of that hard copy, page 54, it's item RES 3/19. It's your council resolution register for April 2019. Moving a seconder here, please. Councillor Murray, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Bronwyn Petrie, thank you. And a hand over to our CE to present the resolution register.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to take questions by exception.
Questions, councillors, to our CE? Question,
Yeah,
councillor?
Yeah, under the Bob Southway, just as chair of the Move and Sovereign Waters, it's Mole.
Yep.
Just Move should be Mole. I did have one regarding the electric station. So we've absolutely heard nothing at all from NRMA after we agreed to.
You're probably frightened with their demands.
Oh, I
No.
see.
I don't know. We haven't heard anything, Mr CE?
I haven't seen any correspondence come in.
Interesting to see, council, because we wouldn't have been the only councillor contacted. I'm interested to see what's happening with that. Because there is a bit going on behind the scenes with that in our political world.
Yes, so we'll have to have lots of them, and we'll have them on all the Western properties as
Yes,
well, because
of course we will.
before anyone can come to
That's
town, they'll
right.
have to charge up their
That's right.
vehicle and,
They've even set a date when they want half of them to be there.
yeah. That's right.
I'm
God bless
just-
the Greens.
And do we pick up their wreaths? The other thing was, do we pick our books, et cetera, today for tomorrow? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All good. Says on top of that. Said just while we're on that, do you want to, after the council meeting?
Get your books and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, after your lunch. if it's all right.
Okay. So after we have lunch? Righto. Righto, councillors. That's the end of our normal business. Would someone like to move that we go into confidential? Councillor Very, thank you. Councillor Murray, seconded, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Gary. I haven't missed anything, have I? We're going all right? Righto. That one.
So David can go.